We all know the greatest WWE wrestlers, like The Undertaker, John Cena, and so many others. There are also those who had the talent to succeed but whose potential was wasted. It is a pleasure to meet you on the Wrestling Paradise for this documentary on the journey of Aleister Black, the one who could have become the next Undertaker, but whose failure at the Stamford Federation is full of mysteries. You will discover, among other things, the crucial role Paul Heyman had in his career behind the scenes and how he has already seriously injured his testicles, but also how he coached the great Shawn Michaels for his last match, the amazing ideas he already suggested to Vince McMahon, and even how he managed to work with The Undertaker while it seemed impossible at the beginning of his career. You are on the Wrestling Paradise, the journey of Aleister Black, a unique wrestler who wrote history. Let's go! When Aleister Black, whose real name is Tom Budgen, signed with the WWE in 2016, it was something. It was the first time that a Dutchman arrived in the world's biggest wrestling company. After spending several years on the independent circuit in Europe, but also in Japan and America, the man who was born in Alkmaar on May 19, 1985, was ready to make history. In the Indies and under the name of Tommy End, he was able to develop a style based on martial arts. He is also a kickboxer, it's a sport he also teaches. You could nevertheless wonder if his physique 6 feet for 215 pounds would enable him to become one of the company's new big stars, where it is traditionally the larger-than-life wrestlers who succeed the best. But Aleister was lucky to get there at a time when the American company had launched NXT shortly before, its training center managed by Triple H, who regularly produced shows. NXT. There were other wrestlers who came from the Indies, and for him the key would mostly be to stand out by his universe and his personality. It would not necessarily be easy for him, since he said he felt lost and not confident when he started in the American company. He also had to manage to speak in English, while he thinks in Dutch, and always had to translate the words into English in his head to cut promos, which isn't easy. Anyway, we could appreciate his originality in his vignettes that the Federation will broadcast at the beginning of 2017. After several months of training at the company's performance center, they indicated it was time for him to officially debut at NXT. In his short videos, which took place in what looked like a church, he told us about his difference from other people. We can see he had a lot of tattoos, and that his character was original in a rather dark and mystical register. He also used the expression fade to black, and we saw him open a door that let in all the light. His universe, which could be considered as a cross between philosophy, metal music, and Satanism, reminds us of The Undertaker, one of the most legendary characters in WWE history. Aleister Black is in a way the heir of the dead man, and we will notice it in his entrance. In April 2017, at the NXT TakeOver Orlando show, he will make his official debut in the ring against Andrade. What is particularly memorable that day is the staging for his entrance. We see him get up as if he came out of a coffin, as if a force animated him and made him rise from the dead. To accompany him, he has his theme song, The Root of All Evil, in which the hardcore punk band Incendiary participated. He concludes his entrance with what will become a habit, a jump over the top rope to sit in the ring. On that day, he will win his first match with an awesome finisher, the Black Mass, an inverted kick that sends his opponents to sleep. From there, he will win multiple matches on the screen and start an unbeaten streak that will last for several months. What we can remember in his first big period at NXT is a match broadcast on August 2nd against Kyle O'Reilly, who was making his debut on that day. We saw what will be one of Aleister's strengths, and which will be appreciated by hardcore wrestling fans. A very sports side, fights that looked like MMA, very technical like his kicks. Subsequently, he will have a rivalry with the Japanese Hideo Itami, which will lead to a confrontation at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 3. In this program, we will see the two men attacking each other outside the ring, which added hatred and intensity. They had the common point of being both kickboxing practitioners. It will enable them to have a very rough match in Brooklyn, full of realism. We imagine that it was nice for Aleister to face this guy, since he grew up watching Japanese wrestling and being a New Japan Pro Wrestling fan. By the way, it was great to hear Jim Ross on commentary of this confrontation, the best of all time in this field. It will end with a Black Mass out of nowhere, which is clearly a great quality of the Dutchman's finisher. It can happen at any time without being prepared. In this show, Black made what will remain one of the best entrances of his career. Since his debut, his entrance has been worked on and improved. Aleister emerged from the smoke, while the arena was plunged into darkness. We also saw candles there, and the metal bands Code Orange and Incendiary were there to play his theme song live. In this entrance, we can see the sign that Triple H and the NXT officials believed a lot in him, giving him all the tools to shine. Do you want to discover the rest of Aleister Black's journey in the WWE and find out if he will succeed in the main roster? By the end of the video, you will have all the answers. Don't worry. In the fall of 2017, the Dutchman will have what is perhaps the best rivalry of his career, the one against Velveteen Dream. Without the shadow of a doubt, it made him one of NXT's big names. The story was based on something very interesting: the huge contrast between Aleister Black, this very dark and inexpressive wrestler, and Velveteen Dream, who is on the contrary very colorful and super expressive. Dream wanted Black to give him his attention. To say his name, the sentence "say my name" came up several times throughout the rivalry, and it's quite remarkable to have a phrase that is so associated with a storyline. In his obsession to have the Dutchman's recognition, Velveteen will interrupt his segment, attack him during his entrance, appear on stage at the end of Black's match wearing his jacket, yelling him to say his name. I would like to point out that Dream even told him. That immediately reminds us of Roman Reigns' catchphrase a few years later. Acknowledge me! It will culminate in a match at NXT TakeOver War Games on November 18th, which will be memorable. On that day, Dream was wearing pants on which their heads were drawn, a detail that helped to be invested in this confrontation. The match was very progressive, with both men trying to get into each other's heads. Finally, Velveteen will get stuck in the ropes and take a black mass. In the end, Aleister took the microphone and finally said his rival's name.
Enjoy infamy, Velveteen Dream.
Many wrestling media will praise this match, and the program between the two men will even be voted Rivalry of the Year at the 2017 NXT Year-End Awards. The Dutchman will also win the Breakout Star and Male Competitor of the Year awards, which symbolizes a very successful first year in the company. Nevertheless, a few days after his program with Velveteen Dream, Aleister Black's unbeaten streak will end with a loss in a fatal four-way match against Johnny Gargano, Killian Dane and Lars Sullivan to become the new NXT titles challenger. The Undisputed Era clan interfered in this match, and it will lead to an Extreme Rules fight between Adam Cole and Aleister Black at NXT TakeOver Philadelphia on January 27, 2018. It was a convenient city for this stipulation, since Philadelphia is known for being the capital of extreme in wrestling. It was a war that the fans really liked, with spots, interferences, chair shots. The Dutchman will win after 22 minutes. He had the momentum, and it was time for him to chase the NXT title. From February 2018, Black will meet the one against whom he debuted 1 year before, and who is the champion, Andrade. It's interesting to note that the Mexican's manager, Zelina Vega, was the Dutchman's girlfriend in real life. The two wrestlers will have a spectacular match at NXT TakeOver New Orleans, which will become a classic of the black and gold brand. It will end with Aleister's victory, and so it is the consecration. He is the champion of the branch where all the most promising wrestlers of the WWE are. He seems to have a bright future in the Stamford Federation, like Roman Reigns or Seth Rollins, top guys who also succeeded in NXT in the past. From there will start a 3-month reign for him, during which he will defend his belt successfully against Eric Young, then Lars Sullivan. He will lose his title on July 25, 2018 against Tommaso Ciampa. In the Full Sail University in Winter Park, which is NXT's home, he faced the Sicilian psychopath, who was a villain at that time and who was clearly hated by the crowd. It was a memorable clash between two of the best in NXT at that time, where the sports and athletic dimension predominated over everything else. In the end, Aleister will lose because of an accidental Johnny Gargano interference. This enables us to see the Dutchman's losses are not only very rare, but that the company protects his credibility a lot. To take revenge, he will give Gargano a tremendous black mass on August 1st, 2018, while he was in the middle of a rant. As we could imagine, it will lead to a match between the two. However, it should be noted that initially he would participate in a 3-way match for the title with Ciampa and Gargano at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 4. But he will be assaulted by a mystery attacker who will prevent him from participating. That will keep him away from the ring for a few months, even if the reality was different. He was indeed supposed to be part of it, but in a non-televised show in Las Vegas where he faced Tommaso Ciampa, he suffered a serious injury to his testicles. It was so painful that when he went backstage after the match, he collapsed. When he returns, he will look for the culprit of this attack, and he will find out in a pretty incredible scene with Nikki Cross. It is October 17th, 2018, and she is in the middle of a match against Bianca Belair. In a moment when they were both on the mat, all the lights will go out for a few seconds in the arena, and then we will see Aleister Black sitting in the ring. Seeing this, we can think of an Undertaker appearance, and that's cool since I love this character. While the spectators will be silent to hear the slightest detail, Aleister will order Nikki to tell him her secret, namely the identity of his aggressor. Cross slowly crawls up to Black and whispers in his ear. In an excellent acting, the Dutchman will start to boil with anger. At NXT TakeOver War Games 2, Aleister Black will therefore face Johnny Gargano, the former babyface who is now a villain. In this highly anticipated confrontation, we can highlight the agility and the power of the Dutchman in his knee strike. He is the one who will win this brutal match. Also, it's interesting to note that during this period, he helped legend Shawn Michaels for his match with Triple H against The Undertaker, and Kane at Crown Jewel a sign that his talent was appreciated behind the scenes. In the following months, after failing to win back the NXT title against Ciampa at NXT TakeOver Phoenix and a participation in the Royal Rumble, where he will be eliminated by Baron Corbin, we will mainly remember an association with Ricochet. The little high-flying wrestler will become his partner for the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, a tournament that gives a tag team title opportunity to the winners. For the record, their collaboration was born at the Halftime Heat show, which took place during the halftime of the Super Bowl.
Halftime Heat on NXT.
Together, they will form a rather surprising but effective team. They will pass each round and win in the final against the Forgotten Sons in the NXT of March 27, 2019. It will offer them an opportunity for the Viking Raiders Tag Team Championship at NXT TakeOver New York, where they will lose. In the process, Aleister Black and Ricochet will even have a match at WrestleMania 35 against the Usos, Cesaro and Sheamus, and Rusev and Nakamura for the SmackDown Tag Team belt. Despite the defeat, this period will above all represent the end of the Dutchman's adventure at NXT and his definitive transition to the main roster. After these very successful 2 years in the Federation, we imagine the best is yet to come for Aleister Black. We can be even more optimistic because at the end of 2018, the McMahon family made big promises that suggested many young wrestlers would have their chance.
We haven't been doing a very good job for you lately, and all of that is going to change, and it starts tonight.
However, nothing is going to happen as planned. Starting in the spring of 2019, the Dark character faces 2 big challenges: getting to be liked by a new audience much larger than NXT's, and convincing company officials to bet on him to eventually become WWE champion, at a time when Seth Rollins and Kofi Kingston were the Federation's top guys. Everything will start for him with a rather weird period. After WrestleMania 35, he will have a few tag team matches on Raw and SmackDown. In just a few days, he will be transferred to the Red Show and then to the Blue Show, which suggests there was uncertainty around him backstage. Finally, he will not have any matches on television for 3 months, and in short videos he will say he is waiting for someone to knock on his door to challenge him. A man will answer his challenge: the Swiss Cesaro. So this will be his first real opponent in the main roster. This fight will take place at the Extreme Rules show on July 14, 2019. Against a technically good and hard-working opponent, Aleister Black had the opportunity to shine in the ring. On that day, he will have his entrance, which is really unique, and he will have a fight against his fellow European. He was able to demonstrate all his talent in the ring, and his final black mass was very beautiful.
Back on full display, black mass.
The Dutchman therefore got a notable victory against a good wrestler from the main roster, a great launching pad for him. However, in the following months, he will only have a few matches on SmackDown with no real project around him. Time goes by without people believing in him completely, but that will change when he is sent to Raw in the fall. There, a man is in charge at that time who is renowned for the opportunities he likes to give to new wrestlers and who appreciates their technical qualities: Paul Heyman.
My name is Paul Heyman.
From October 2019, he will start a series of victories that will last several months. The whole idea was to build maximum credibility for a whole period. In the WWE, this is something that can lead to a main title opportunity in general. He will notably have a rivalry against Buddy Murphy, with whom he will have a long history in the following years, as you will see. Between December 2019 and January 2020, he will face him no less than 3 times, and he will win each time in spectacular matches. Together, they will develop a chemistry that will be obvious on the screen. At the TLC show, for example, they will offer viewers the best match of the evening. It is a program that enabled the Dutchman to gain even more momentum, and it will lead to a participation in the 2020 Royal Rumble. Although he was eliminated by Seth Rollins, his entrance as number 28 gave him spotlight, just like what will happen at Elimination Chamber a few weeks later. Even if his unbeaten streak will have ended against AJ Styles, he will precisely face him. While he was in a bad position, The Undertaker will come to destroy Styles and his allies and then disappear. I must say I find it awesome to have a connection between Aleister Black and the Dead Man, being one of his heirs. In any case, it gave the Dutchman exposure and, under Paul Heyman's creative direction, he will even have his career's first singles match at WrestleMania against Bobby Lashley. It is a confrontation that he will win, even if it was unfortunately at the Performance Center without any fans. Subsequently, we will note a participation in the Money in the Bank match. But from July 2020, his appearances on television will become increasingly rare, with only 3 matches between July 20th and October 12th. It is certainly not by chance. In June, 1 year after taking the job, Paul Heyman was fired from his Monday Night Raw executive director position.
You're fired!
An influential person who believed in him by giving him screen time is no longer behind Aleister. After a confrontation with Kevin Owens on October 12th, he will completely disappear from television. On the one hand, we can see it as an opportunity to have a fresh start when he returns. But on the other hand, time goes by and, in this very competitive environment, his colleagues won't hesitate to take his spot. During this period, it should also be noted that his wife, Zelina Vega, will be fired by the company for not respecting its policy regarding the Twitch platform. Despite everything, will Aleister Black be completely revived and finally have his moment of glory in the main roster? That's what we're going to see in the next chapter. From April 23rd, 2021, new vignettes of Aleister Black will be broadcast on SmackDown. In general, that's a good sign in the WWE. It's a process of presenting a new character for several weeks to make viewers want to see him debut. It is also an opportunity to express creativity and arouse curiosity. Aleisters are going to be exciting and fulfill their mission.
Bring me to these celebrations of life and death.
For a few weeks, he will tell a story between moments in front of the camera and cartoon, which will be in several chapters. The very first vignette is entitled The Dragon and evokes a dark father character who looks like a priest. He talks about ceremonies that he attended when he was younger, celebrations of life and death. He says that he wasn't taught to fight the dragon but to become the dragon. The second vignette was called Reality, and in summary, he criticized human beings for all their lies and their illusions. He says he is in the truth and has the opportunity to give us the keys to help us, but he won't do it. In the third one, The Lesson, he presents himself as someone who has been educated, forged for greatness. Finally, in the last one, Beautiful Pain, he tells us that we are sinners, in denial, that we are blind. In his character's vision, we are sick animals, and it is time to purify the herd. He is here to eliminate the weak. We will see him having dragon eyes, and so he seems to be taking a direction where he would like to clean up the WWE roster. Aleister Black has created a mysterious and intriguing universe through these vignettes. We could even find elements of his personal life. Indeed has already told he was afraid of the dark when he was little, also because he started reading about very dark subjects at a very young age. It is a fear that he has finally overcome, and from now on, it is at night that he feels the most energetic. After these vignettes, on May 21st, 2021, he finally makes his big comeback on television by interfering at the end of an Intercontinental title match between Apollo Crews, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn and Big E. It is the latter that he will target by hitting him with a black mass to make him lose. The Dutchman now had one eye with a white lens, so we could imagine that Big E, this nice guy who is part of the funny New Day team, represented one of those weak and in denial human beings he wanted to eliminate. An interesting rivalry could have happened, but on June 2nd, 2021, he will be fired by the company. In the end, all this fresh start will have led to nothing, no match, no storyline, and it will have been ruined prematurely because of budget cuts. At least that's the explanation Aleister got for his dismissal. We obviously are frustrated in the end with these vignettes that were probably going somewhere. Real efforts were made to revive him with a new theme song that was created for him, which he even found better than his old one. About his dismissal, he will say he's not sad or depressed. He knew life is full of ups and downs, some bad days. He was told that it was budget cuts, but that doesn't matter to him. He had a great time with 4 or 5 amazing years. He feels very grateful for what the company has done for him. He was able to present some pieces of his characters. Aleister was enthusiastic about this whole dark father story that he mostly wrote himself. He says we would have understood more what he was talking about, and that it wasn't his choice that it was so cryptic. Apparently, he had a good relationship with the boss, Vince McMahon, who appreciated his creativity and honesty when Aleister didn't hesitate to say how he felt. He even already suggested storylines ideas for him, such as kidnapping Rey Mysterio's children, having a program against Vince McMahon himself, or even forming a team with The Undertaker in the Dead Man's rivalry against AJ Styles. In his eyes, they simply had some trouble determining what his character would be in the main roster compared to what he was in NXT. It's understandable, especially since, a few years before, Triple H told him he had recruited him for who he was, that he didn't want him to be something he wasn't. The basic idea was therefore not to completely change Black when arriving on Raw or SmackDown. Despite his gratitude and his good mindset, the Dutchman will still have lived quite badly these 2 years in the main roster. He describes them as a slow death. The many conversations he had with Vince McMahon and other officials impacted his self-esteem. The fact is, his adventure in the world's biggest wrestling company came to an end. Aleister Black was dead and Budgeon had to reinvent himself. On July 7, 2021, just a few weeks after his dismissal from the WWE, Tom debuted in the other big American wrestling federation, All Elite Wrestling, under the name Malachi Black. Usually, wrestlers who are fired from the Stamford Federation have a 3-month non-compete clause. But an error in his contract allowed him to sign elsewhere long before. There he will start by attacking Arn Anderson and later Cody Rhodes, who he will beat in his first match on August 4th. What will especially characterize this fresh start at All Elite Wrestling is associations with Andrade, his former opponent at NXT, then with Brody King, Buddy Matthews, whom used to be Buddy Murphy, with whom he will form the House of Black. He will be mostly active in the tag team division, and his greatest achievement will be winning the World Trios title. In September 2022, he will take a break for a few weeks, before returning and doing the same thing again. We don't know what Malachi Black's future is made of, but what is certain is that he continues to explore this universe he created, and he has probably not finished surprising us. We can say that Aleister Black's journey really is a memorable one. I hope you had a good time watching this video, and I invite you to stay on the Paradise of Wrestling to look at some other ones. See you right away.
And that's the bottom line, 'cause Stone Cold said so. What?